Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is rising tides, talking about the expanding consciousness on the planet, just to be looking on the bright side and seeing the hopeful signs and calling them forward for ourselves. So before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present, and let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clear, crisp oxygen just flooding your lungs and flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells and your organs, and bringing vital life energy throughout your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, any stress, any negativity or fatigue. And now another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And this time, imagine sparkling bright light, electrifying and energizing and illuminating all your molecules and electrons, lighting your cells up from the inside out and glowing out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining fatigue or tension or stress, negativity. And now let's just gently press our palms together, really softly rub your fingers against your palms to feel how delicious that is, the sensation of your nerve endings touching and stimulating one another, and bring yourselves present right here, right now. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Rosalind. Happy Friday to you too. I don't know about for you, but the weeks just seem to keep flying by. I don't know where the time goes. It's just amazing. Good morning, Tammy. Welcome, welcome. Great to have you here. Happy Friday. So, another week. And today I thought it would be great to be looking at how we're seeing more and more awakening in the world. You know, it's springtime, so nature is waking back up. But I think we get to see that humanity is waking up, and that that awakening is happening at an accelerated pace. I don't know if it's because of the vitality of spring that I'm aware of this at the moment, but it feels hopeful, that there's so much going on in the world, and certainly there are many things to be looking at with concern or upset. But good morning, Robert. Welcome, welcome. But we've been speaking this week about breakdown and breakthrough, really, and how oftentimes, right on the verge of a massive breakthrough, that's when we see what looks like massive breakdown. And the last throes of old behaviors trying to reassert themselves and gain new traction. And in fact, it's often these moments of upheaval that are harbingers of profound change. And it's not that there's any event that I'm alert to that fits in the category of harbingers for change or massive breakdown or massive breakthrough for that matter. But I just feel it. I don't know if you have a similar sensation, but like waking up with this sense of hope for the world and redemption. Like that we get to we get to solve these crises that are threatening our existence. That this is just being faced with such a monumental challenge is making humanity rise to a whole new level of engagement and participation and evolution. And it's kind of like evolve or die. And I think we're rising to the challenge, you know? So, rising tides, they say rising tide raises all ships, right? So, my awareness is that ideas and awarenesses and awakenings that have been simmering for centuries even are coming to fruition now, that this is our time, that we can do this thing, and not only can we, but we are. And that humanity, that there's hope, that there's hope for humanity, that we are awakening. And, you know, there are lots of examples of this. But if we think about, just for instance, yoga, years ago, yoga was something that was super foreign and strange. And now yoga is very much mainstream, maybe not in its purest form, but people are familiar with yoga. People practice yoga. People are practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness is being introduced into corporate cultures. Um, Vegetarianism. When I was a kid, I was, I don't know, maybe 13 or 15 when I first went vegetarian. And at that time, an iceberg lettuce wedge and canned string beans were considered a vegetarian meal. You know, like you couldn't get a vegetarian meal anywhere. So we're seeing the rise of so many positive things that are becoming more and more mainstream, more and more part of popular awareness and culture. We are aware of recycling, although recycling is kind of um, a way to divert our intentions, because it's not particularly effective. You know, the recycling of plastics is not very effective, but at least the awareness that we have an impact on the environment is something that has been received by so many people, and people are aware that we get to make some radical changes in order to preserve our ability to live on this planet. So there are other hopeful signs. I mean, just the kinds of things that people engage in conversation. So uh, transformation is a mainstream word now, and evolution and waking up and conscious business and social entrepreneurship and social justice, and these are common conversations. And there's so many indications uh, that we have a good shot at this, at making things better, that there's more, that there's a growing awareness. We see more documentaries on the planet being produced all the time, and on our impact, and on our farming practices. And there are many, many hopeful things. So I'm wondering for yourself, what kinds of indicators do you recognize in the world right now that are positive, that are calling you forward, that are a source of hope and invigoration and enthusiasm for the future for you? So what kinds of experiences or awarenesses or um, shifts have you recognized? Last night, every Thursday night, we have a movie night for Sustainability Now, and last night we had the privilege of um, having an icon, Hazel Henderson, join us. She's a futurist and an environmentalist, and uh, it was really interesting. She was talking about, we were talking about sustainable investment, green type investments, and she brought up in the interview, she brought up what is it called? Impossible foods and um, impossible burgers. Hello, Duncan. Welcome, welcome. Yama from down under to you, beautiful soul, and everyone else. Great to have you here, Duncan. Um, and Maggie, you're getting lots of love. So, so last night we were talking about Impossible Burgers and Beyond Meat, and how at that time when we did the interview, I believe that it might have been Burger King that was introducing this Beyond Meat or Impossible Burger, and that shift of paradigm where a strictly meat based business was introducing meat alternatives that were plant based. That was unimaginable when I was growing up. But even not that many years ago, it was kind of unfathomable. And now, pretty much anywhere you go, you can get vegan options. And so there's something. Welcome, welcome, Sophia. I don't remember seeing your name here. It's great to see you. Have you join us? Thank you. We're talking about rising tides and rising tides, not in terms of climate change, but in terms of, I guess, a mental climate change, a change of the awareness and awakening of humanity. There's so much more talk of unity and oneness and global family. I don't think it's just because of what I'm tuned into. I mean, there's a lot of negative that we could tune into. There's no question about that. And the thing is that there's equally, if not more positive, at least in my vantage point, and that's where I choose to put my attention. And I think the more we put our attention on the positives and the possibilities, the more we can propagate them. So Sophia says, yes, I have attended many of your sessions and watch your reply. You have been interviewed on EWN. Love this community. Thank you, Sophia. So wonderful to have you engaging with us. That's awesome. And Robert says, when I was working at the cafe, we had burgers on the menu. And one time we had a customer who asked for a burger without the meat. We were all a bit confused, but that made the manager introduce vegetarian burgers. Brilliant. Yes, that's awesome. I'm still waiting. It looks like Starbucks has introduced more vegan alternatives, but they haven't figured out that they need to have a vegan and gluten-free option. But even Starbucks, how awesome is that? Rosalind says, I know a couple of people looking for a puppy. It's surprising that there are no puppies, which might be attributed to the pandemic. So it's nice to see that there are less animals stuck in a shelter. Yes, that I have to confess that hasn't been on my radar, but absolutely to have, interesting to be thinking about this time of COVID and people in isolation, and maybe they have turned to pets to have that companionship and camaraderie. There's certainly something magic and wonderful about animals. I think animals are the best people on the planet. So Duncan says, need to introduce vegan menu in schools and hospitals. No joke. So my mom is in the hospital. She may be getting released today. And I was looking at the food and the way that the food is delivered. First of all, there's not much in the way of um, any kind of uh, awareness around sustainability. I think. I mean, they're still serving things in styrofoam cups, and everything is packaged in plastic. And at least the silverware is not disposable. The silverware was real silverware, so that's something. But ice cream and I think she's on a low sodium diet. I think that they might have vegetarian options in the hospital. You would think that they'd have to at this point. But thank you, Duncan, and thank you all for the wishes for my mom. She seems to be doing better. She's 90 years old. My mom still drives herself and lives by herself and is quite mentally astute still. So, yeah, she's pretty remarkable in that regard. Uh, but thank you, Robert. And as Sophia says, we have those options in Sweden, vegetarian or vegan menu in schools and hospitals. Actually, Duncan, I was thinking vegetarian, but as you say, vegan, that makes a whole big difference because so many institutions think that, dairy is the way to go when there's no meat. So, yeah, interesting options, but the fact that we can even be conversing about the distinctions between vegetarianism and veganism, and everybody understands that, that's pretty remarkable. And uh, people can be vegetarian and vegan without being considered like treated like they're from another planet. So there's more and more awareness of the way that we care for or don't care for animals. There's more and more awareness of um, the meat industry and how and the abuses, and also greater awareness of how we farm, and wonderful solutions coming up that that give me hope. I'm wondering what else do you recognize in the world that you find hopeful, that is an indicator of our global evolution? Do you have any other examples of things that you're seeing that that give you reason to feel that we're going in the right direction? Let's see what else. I've when I hear people that are not as that are not involved in the intentional process of awakening or evolving, when I hear people that are more shall I say, I don't know, mainstream, I'm talking about all these things going mainstream, but people that are more conventional or mainstream, talking about um, planetary issues, that gives me hope. When I hear people that I wouldn't expect to be voicing concern or taking action in helping to preserve the world going forward, that gives me hope. When I see, I'm trying to think of a specific instance, but at the moment I'm not coming up with something specific. But what other kinds of things do you see happening in the world that helps you to feel more hopeful about where we're headed? What kinds of things are you I look, because of sustainability now, I look for all kinds of solutions. And this is not a new solution, but it was something that came back across my desk. It was really, really cool. This I believe his name is Robert Nocera, and he's got a lab at Harvard, and they developed a photosynthesis based solar energy. So I think they called it the bionic leaf. And they harnessed the power of photosynthesis to create sort of a solar cell that could generate electricity. And when I recognize that there is uh, that we're working in collaboration with nature. That when we recognize that we're moving um, into greater alignment with nature, and a reverence for nature and nature's processes, that gives me hope. Robert says the bionic leaf sounds amazing. I agree. I agree. I'm trying to track this guy down. I made a call and left a message, but I get to follow up on that to see if I can interview him, to learn where we are with this process. The technology was bought by another company, and what happens sometimes with these breakthrough technologies is that they get purchased so they can be shelved. And I just want to see all these wonderful technologies come off the shelf and into the mainstream. There's another company that I've been following for several years called Solar Roadways, and they're doing such cool stuff. They created these tiles that are, I think that they're glass, I think, or maybe it's some kind of resin. I don't know. I think they're glass, but they're these tiles, solar tiles that have LED connections inside, so they can be programmed. They're laid down on roadways, on buildings, on paths, on parking lots, all these surfaces that are always exposed to the sun. And then they collect solar energy. The one of the things that is an outcome, that I believe they were talking about, is to be able to have electric cars driving on these roads and just automatically charging from driving on the roads. And the roads can be kept warm, so when there's snow, there's no accumulation of the snow on the road, and therefore we wouldn't have to be salting the roads and having all that heavy equipment that would be um, damaging the roads, and the salt erodes the roads, and uh, we wouldn't be having the fossil fuel based macadam. I believe it is fossil fuel based. You might correct me on that. Anyway, just really cool stuff. And I'm also, one of the things that's most hopeful to me is the shifting paradigm around economy and recognizing that this idea of GDP and the perpetual growth machine that has driven our world into this place of perpetual production without necessarily improved value. Um, so shifting that paradigm toward a circular economy and this idea of donut economics by Kate Rayworth is talking about an an economic picture that actually, what a concept, takes natural resources and human welfare into consideration rather than just dollars and cents and production and volume. So these things are all tremendously helpful, hopeful for me. And Robert says, excellent. Technology used properly can benefit humanity greatly. Exactly, exactly. We have a lot of tremendous, practically magical capacities and capabilities. We just need to redefine the context within which we apply these things, right? And Duncan says, won't have to dig into Mama Earth. Yeah, wouldn't that be great? Is to find solutions that aren't based in extractive practices, right? So I encourage you today to be looking for the things that are hopeful, look for the signs of hope, and allow yourself to celebrate our evolution. And yes, there's more. Yes, there's more, and it's going to take some time, but let's accelerate the goodness. Let's put our attention on expanding the possibility and expanding uh, the positiveness that we do have the capacity for. So Maggie's flying around. You can see my bricks moving. So Maggie was making loops in the room and creating some breeze. So I don't know if you thought that the bricks were real, but they're not. It's a backdrop, and Maggie and also my cat Jewel have exposed that from time to time. So uh, even if we see the signs of devastation on the planet, maybe things aren't always as they seem. Maybe the we're just seeing the throes of old, outmoded ways of thinking and being falling away, and just not going gracefully, but going. Duncan says, "Thank you. Yes, we are hopeful of a beautiful new earth. May we all live in love, peace, and harmony." And Robert says, "Moving wall, magic." Exactly. We can make magic, and we do on a daily basis. So let's go into our weekends making magic and seeing magic, and appreciating it and propagating it. So I think that's it for today. It's Friday. I wish you a wonderful weekend. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and Maggie and I go live each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. And as always, I so appreciate you and this time that we get to spend together. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Please check out the other wonderful programming on Enlightened World Network, and have an amazing, magical weekend.